The flashing red and blue lights of Officer Dan Harris's patrol car sliced through the quiet darkness of the suburban street. It was just past 10 p.m., and the roads were nearly empty. Just another slow Wednesday night in Pleasantville. Harris had been on the force for 8 years, long enough to know that most traffic stops were mundane. A warning here, a ticket there. Maybe the occasional drunk driver, but tonight would be different. The black sedan had been going 12 over the limit, not egregious, but enough to warrant a stop. As Harris pulled up behind it, he noted the expensive make of the car. Probably some businessman in a hurry, he thought. The driver, a middle-aged black man in a well-tailored suit, rolled down his window without hesitation. His expression was calm, almost expectant. Harris approached, his flashlight beam cutting through the dark interior of the car. "License and registration, please," he said, his voice firm but professional. The man nodded, reaching for his glove. "Compartment." That's when Harris noticed something glint at the man's waist, a small, polished badge. Harris stiffened. Wait. Is that a cop's badge? The driver handed over his license, and Harris glanced at the name. Marcus Reynolds. Something about it rang a bell, but he couldn't place it. "Evening, officer," Reynolds said smoothly. "I assume I was speeding?" Harris nodded. 12 over, sir." Reynolds chuckled. "Guilty as charged." "Long day." Harris studied him. The man had an air of authority, relaxed but in control. Not the nervous energy of someone hiding something. Then Reynolds shifted slightly. The badge at his waist caught the light again. Harris hesitated. "Sir, are you law enforcement?" Reynolds smiled. "You could say that." Before Harris could ask more, Reynolds reached into his jacket. Instinctively, Harris's hand hovered near his sidearm, but the man only pulled out a business card. Harris took it, his eyes scanning the embossed lettering. ***, Chief Marcus Reynolds, Pleasantville Police Department, ***. His stomach dropped. **Pleasantville. That's my department, ***. And then it hit him. The rumors. The emails. The new chief starting next week? Oh no. Harris's mouth went dry. He had just pulled over his own police chief, a man he hadn't even met yet. Worse, his tone hadn't been rude, but it hadn't been overly friendly either. Was this a test? A setup? Chief Reynolds watched him, amusement flickering in his eyes. "You all right, officer?" Harris swallowed. "Sir, I had no idea." Reynolds laughed. "Relax. I wanted to see how my officers handle themselves when they don't know who's watching." Harris exhaled sharply. So it was a test. But Reynolds wasn't done. "You did everything right. Professional by the book." "That's exactly what I like to see." Harris nodded, relief flooding through him. Then Reynolds raised an eyebrow. "Now, about that ticket." Harris froze again. Was he serious? After a beat, Reynolds grinned. "Kidding. Both on the road and with the assumptions." Harris managed a weak laugh. "Yes, sir." As they stood there on the quiet roadside, Reynolds explained why he'd done this. "I could have introduced myself at roll call," he said. "But I wanted to see how my officers treat people when they think no one's judging them." He met Harris's gaze. "You treated me with respect. It's all I ask from my team." Harris nodded, the weight of the moment settling in. Reynolds clapped him on the shoulder. "See you Monday, officer." With that, he got back into his car and drove off, leaving Harris standing there, heart still pounding. Somehow, no one knew exactly how body cam footage of the stop leaked online. The clip spread like wildfire. ***. Cop pulls over his own chief without realizing it. ***. Millions watched as Harris's face went from professional calm to stunned disbelief. The comments section exploded. Chief Reynolds is a legend for this. Officer handled it like a pro. This is how you lead by example. A few critics questioned whether Harris would have been so respectful if Reynolds hadn't been the chief. But Reynolds shut that down fast in a press conference. Officer Harris did his job fairly, and that's what matters. When Monday came, Harris walked into the precinct with a mix of nerves and curiosity. Chief Reynolds was already there, shaking hands with the morning shift. When he spotted Harris, he grinned. "Officer Harris, glad you made it." The room fell silent as Reynolds addressed the whole team. "Some of you might have seen that video. Let me be clear. I didn't do that to embarrass anyone. I did it to remind us all why we wear this badge." He paused. Every interaction matters. Every person deserves respect. That's the standard. "Here now," the officers nodded. Harris stood a little taller. In the weeks that followed, the department changed. Fewer complaints, more trust. A chief who didn't just sit behind a desk but rode along with patrols. Bought coffee for night shift officers, and he still occasionally let himself get pulled over just to keep everyone sharp. As for Harris, he never wrote a speeding ticket the same way again. Asterisk. Officer Don Harris adjusted his patrol car's spotlight, illuminating the interior of the sleek black sedan he'd just pulled over on Oakwood Drive. The neighborhood was quiet at this hour. It's just the occasional passing car and the hum of streetlights. Harris had run the plates already. Clean registration, no warrants. It's just another routine stop for speeding. As he approached the driver's side, his polished boots crunched on the gravel shoulder. The window rolled down smoothly, revealing a distinguished black man in his late 40s wearing a navy suit that screamed expensive tailoring. The driver's hands remained visible on the steering wheel, his demeanor calm but alert. "Evening, officer," the man said, his voice deep and measured. Harris rested one hand on his duty belt near his radio. "License and registration, please. Standard procedure." The man nodded and reached toward the glove compartment in slow, deliberate movements. Most drivers Harris pulled over fell into three categories: nervous talkers, angry complainers, or overly apologetic. This man was none of those. His movements were precise, almost ... professional. As the driver handed over his documents, Harris noticed something unusual about the way he extended his arm, the crisp fold of his sleeve, the way his jacket fell. Opened slightly to reveal ... Was that a badge clipped to his belt? Harris accepted the license without breaking eye contact, but his peripheral vision kept returning to that glint of metal. Police officers didn't typically carry badges that way when off-duty. Detectives sometimes did, but this neighborhood wasn't exactly a hotbed of undercover work. "Mr. Reynolds," Harris said, reading the license before glancing back at the driver. "You know how fast you were going back there?" Reynolds maintained perfect eye contact. "I believe I was doing about 57 in a 45, officer. Was on a phone call and lost track of my speed." Harris nodded, processing the admission. Most people would have started making excuses by now. Reynolds' calm demeanor was almost unsettling in its professionalism. As Harris studied the license again, he noticed something else. The address was in the upscale Brookfield Estates. Nice neighborhood. It's maybe a lawyer or corporate executive. "But that badge, ... double quotes, sir? Are you currently carrying any weapons?" Harris asked, his training kicking in. Reynolds smiled slightly. "Just my service weapon, officer, properly secured." Harris felt his pulse quicken. Service weapon. That meant ... Harris decided to be direct. "Sir, I couldn't help but notice what appears to be a badge on your belt. Are you in law enforcement?" Reynolds didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his inner jacket pocket. Harris tensed and produced a slim leather wallet. Harris found himself staring at a gold shield and identification card that made his blood run cold. Pleasantville. Police Department ***. The dates on the ID showed he'd been sworn in just 3 days ago. Harris's mouth went dry. The new chief, the one whose orientation was scheduled for next Monday. The man whose photo he'd seen in department emails but hadn't committed to memory yet. "Sir, I ... Harris stammered, his professional demeanor cracking for the first time. In years, Chief Reynolds chuckled, the sound warm but carrying undeniable authority. "At ease, officer. You're doing everything exactly by the book." He gestured to the license still in Harris's hand. "Though you might want to run that through the system to be thorough." Harris swallowed hard. Every cop knew the horror stories. Officers who'd failed to recognize superiors. during traffic stops and found their careers mysteriously stalled afterward. But Reynolds' expression showed no anger, only quiet amusement. "Sir, I apologize for not recognizing you immediately," Harris managed. "No need," Reynolds said, waving off the concern. "I specifically asked the commissioner not to circulate my photo widely. Wanted to see how the department operates when they don't know the new chief is watching." As Harris stood frozen, Reynolds continued in a conversational tone. "You approached with appropriate caution. Your commands were clear, but professional. You noticed potential indicators of law enforcement status without jumping to conclusions." He nodded approvingly. "This is exactly the standard I expect from Pleasantville PD." Harris exhaled slowly, relief washing over him, and Reynolds' expression turned more serious. "But tell me, officer, if I hadn't been wearing this badge, would this interaction have gone differently?" The question hung in the air like a physical weight. Harris knew what the chief was really asking. Was there bias in his policing? Double quotes. Harris chose his words carefully. "I'd like to think I treat every stop with the same professionalism. But if you're asking whether I'm perfect, no, sir. Nobody is." Reynolds studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Honest answer. That's all I can ask for." The chief declined Harris's offer to void the speeding warning rules. Officer and the two parted ways with mutual respect. But the story didn't end there. When Harris returned to the station, he discovered Chief Reynolds had already called ahead to commend his professionalism. By morning, the entire department knew about the encounter, not as a reprimand, but as a teaching moment about procedural fairness. The body cam footage leaked anonymously. Of course, went department-wide, then viral. News outlets picked up the story with headlines like **** new police chief tests his officers and likes. What he sees **** traffic stop becomes leadership moment for entire department **** in the weeks that followed. Chief Reynolds implemented new training programs focused on unconscious bias and community policing. He became known for his unannounced ride-alongs and his habit of personally responding to officer-involved incidents. As for Officer Harris, he became something of a department legend, the cop who unknowingly pulled over the chief and passed the test. But more importantly, he gained a renewed commitment to policing with fairness and integrity. The lesson stuck with him every time he turned on those flashing lights. ***, you never know who might be watching, but that shouldn't change how you do your job. ***. Officer Dan Harris felt the familiar weight of his duty belt as he stood beside the black sedan, the glow of his cruiser's lights painting the scene in alternating flashes of red and blue. The driver's window was down, revealing a composed black man in his late 40s, with close-cropped, graying hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to assess Harris as much as Harris was assessing him. Harris had been about to launch into his standard speeding lecture when something about the man's demeanor gave him pause. Most people got nervous during traffic stops, fumbling with documents, talking too fast, avoiding eye contact. This man simply waited, his hands resting comfortably on the steering wheel, exuding a quiet authority that didn't match the situation. "Officer," the man said calmly before Harris could speak, "I think we should talk." Harris's training kicked in. That wasn't how these interactions usually went. His fingers twitched toward his radio as the man reached slowly into his inner jacket pocket. Every cop knew jackets could conceal weapons, and Harris's pulse quickened as he tracked the movement. Then instead of a gun, the man produced a simple black business card between two fingers, offering it to Harris with the ease of someone accustomed to commanding attention. Harris took it, his eyes dropping to the embossed lettering. ***, Chief Marcus Reynolds, Pleasantville Police Department, *43 heartbeats. The world seemed to stop. The card felt heavy in Harris's hand. Pleasantville was his precinct. There had been emails about the new chief starting soon, but the man's photo hadn't been circulated yet. Harris's stomach dropped like he'd missed a step on stairs. His mouth went dry. "That's right," Chief Reynolds said, watching Harris's face. With the hint of a smile, Starting Monday, I'm your new boss. The words landed like a physical blow. Harris had been on the force for 9 years, long enough to know stories about officers who'd unknowingly ticketed their superiors and faced quiet retaliation. His mind raced through every word he'd said since the stop began, analyzing his tone, his posture, whether he'd been too abrupt, ... Chief Reynolds seemed to read his thoughts. Relax, officer. You've done nothing wrong. He gestured to the business card still clutched in Harris's hand. I asked the commissioner not to distribute my photo. Wanted to see how my officers conduct themselves when they don't know they're being evaluated. Harris swallowed hard. Sir. You approached with appropriate caution, Reynolds continued. Your commands were clear but professional. You noticed my badge but didn't make assumptions. He nodded approvingly. This is exactly the standard. I expect the praise should have been reassuring, but Harris's nerves were still live wires. He'd heard of chiefs who tested their officers this waysome to build trust, others to weed out problem cops. Which kind was Reynolds? As if sensing Harris's unease, the chief's expression grew more serious. Tell me, officer. I hadn't shown you that card? How would this stop have ended? The question hung in the air between them, heavier than the humid night. Harris knew what Reynolds was really asking. Asterisk. Would you have treated me differently without the badge? Asterisk. Harris chose his words carefully. Sir, I'd like to think I'd have conducted this stop the same way regardless. But ... He hesitated then. Decided honesty was his best play. The truth is, I don't know. I try to be fair with everyone, but nobody's perfect. Reynolds studied him for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. Honest answer? That's all I can ask for. He reached for his door handle. Why don't you ride with me for a few minutes? We should talk. Harris blinked. Sir, call it an impromptu performance review, Reynolds said with a wry smile, unless you'd rather write me that speeding ticket. 10 minutes later, Harris found himself in the passenger seat of the chief's unmarked car, trying to process how a routine traffic stop had turned into. Whatever this was, Reynolds drove with the same calm control he'd shown during the stop. How long have you been with Pleasantville PD, officer? 9 years, sir? Ever had any complaints? One excessive force allegation 3 years ago, Harris admitted. Internal affairs cleared me. Body cam showed the suspect was reaching for a weapon, but it still sticks with me. Reynolds nodded. Good, it should. Complaints are lessons, even the unfounded ones. He turned onto a quiet residential street. You know why I pulled this stunt tonight? Harris shook his head. Because leadership isn't about memos or meetings, Reynolds said. It's about knowing your people, really knowing them. Seeing how they act when no one's watching. He glanced at Harris, and giving them chances to be better. The words settled over Harris like a weight being lifted. This wasn't a test to punish, it was an opportunity to grow. When Harris returned to the station the next day, he found the grapevine had already spread news of the encounter. But instead of the ridicule he'd feared, officers approached him with respect and curiosity. Chief Reynolds made good on his promise to ride along with every patrol shift that week. He listened more than he spoke, asked questions instead of giving orders, and when appropriate shared stories from his own early days as a beat cop. The body cam footage of Harris's traffic stop leaked, though no one could prove by whom became. Required viewing at roll call not as a cautionary tale, but as an example of professional policing. By month's end, the department had implemented new procedural justice training and a community outreach program Reynolds called Coffee With. A Cop Plus, where officers met residents not just in staged events, but in their actual neighborhoods. As for Harris, he became something of a department legend, the cop who'd unknowingly pulled over the chief and passed the test. But more importantly, he gained a mentor in Reynolds and a renewed commitment to policing with both fairness and humility. The lesson stayed with him every time he flipped on his lights. Asterisk, true character is what you do when no one's watching, especially when the person watching might just be your new boss. Asterisk. The silence between them stretched like a live wire. Officer Dan Harris could hear his own pulse thundering in his ears as he stared at the gold chief's badge, now gleaming in his patrol car's interior light, the business card in his other hand. Suddenly felt like it weighed 20 pounds. The realization hit Harris like a bucket of ice water. His mind raced through every interaction, the firm license and registration demand, the clipped tone when he'd asked about the speeding, the way he'd tensed when Reynolds reached for his jacket. His stomach churned. This wasn't just any superior. This was the newly appointed chief of police, a man who could end careers with a signature. And Harris had basically strong-armed him during a routine traffic stop. "Chief." Marcus Reynolds studied Harris's face with the calm patience of a veteran. Detective watching a suspect crack. The street light outside cast shadows that made his expression unreadable. Harris's training kicked in. He knew better than to break eye contact first, but the weight of that gaze made his palms sweat inside his gloves. "Sir, I ... double quotes Harris's voice. Cracked. He cleared his throat. "I apologize for not recognizing you immediately." Reynolds' lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but something dangerously close to amusement. "At ease, Officer Harris. This isn't an ambush, but it felt like one." Harris's mind flashed to all the horror stories cops told about new chiefs cleaning house. The unofficial probation periods. The sudden performance reviews for officers who rubbed administration the wrong way. Was this how his 9-year career ended, with the speeding ticket he'd issued to his own boss? The chief reached up slowly and adjusted his rearview mirror. The movement casual, almost deliberately non-threatening. "I wanted to see how my team operates when they don't know the cameras are rolling." He tapped the business card still in Harris's hand. He did everything by protocol. Be even better than protocol. Harris exhaled sharply through his nose, but didn't dare relax. Every cop knew praise from administration could be a trap. "With all due respect, sir, why the test?" Reynolds leaned back in his seat, the leather creaking. "When I took this job, the commissioner warned me about certain attitudes in the department. Guess he meant I should expect officers to treat a black driver differently." His eyes locked onto Harris's. "You didn't." The unspoken question hung between them like smoke. "Asterisk would you have if you didn't see the badge?" Asterisk. Harris's mouth went dry. He thought about the last 5 traffic stops he'd made. The 2 white college kids he'd let off with warnings. The Hispanic construction worker he'd ticketed for a broken taillight. The black businessman he'd... "Sir, if I may," Harris said carefully, "I'd like to think I judge each stop on its own merits, but I know what the stats say about unconscious bias. I've taken the trainings. I try to." He trailed off, suddenly aware of how hollow the words sounded. Chief Reynolds surprised him by nodding. It's an honest answer. That's rarer than you'd think in this job. He reached for the door handle. "Walk with me, officer." They stepped out into the cool night air. The hum of the patrol cars idled, the only sound. Reynolds stretched his back before turning to face Harris fully. Close. Harris noticed the faint scar along the chief's hairline, the kind cops got from a bad takedown or a riot shield gone wrong. This wasn't some political appointee. Reynolds had earned his stripes the hard way. "You know why I requested no press release about my arrival?" Reynolds asked. "I wanted to see the real Pleasantville PD, not the polished version they roll out. For ceremonies," he gestured to Harris's duty belt. "That camera of yours caught something important tonight." Harris stiffened. His body cam had been running the whole time. Every hesitation, every micro-expression captured in high definition. Reynolds continued. "It caught an officer doing his job fairly when he thought no one important was watching. That's the kind of example I want leading my department." He paused. "Assuming you're interested in leadership opportunities." A sudden shift left Harris reeling. Was this ... a job offer? A promotion interview disguised as a traffic stop? His brain scrambled to catch up. "Sir, I think about it," Reynolds said, handing back his license. "We'll talk Monday at your evaluation." He opened his car door, then turned back with a smirk. "Oh, an officer. Next time you pull me over, the ticket's on you." As Harris watched the chief's taillights disappear into the night, the full weight of what just happened settled over him. That wasn't just a traffic stop. It was a turning point. Whether for his career or the entire department, he couldn't say yet, but one thing was certain. When he walked into the precinct on Monday, nothing would ever be the same. Asterisk, the hum of passing cars faded into the background as Officer Harris and Chief Reynolds stood on the gravel shoulder, the patrol car's lights still casting rhythmic flashes across their faces. Harris's fingers twitched at his sides. Part of him wanted to reach for his ticket book just to have something to hold on to. The cool night air did little to calm the heat rising at the back of his neck. Chief Reynolds studied the quiet suburban street before speaking again. His voice measured, but firm. I could have walked into the station Monday with a brass band and a press conference. He turned to face Harris fully, the gold trim on his badge catching the light. But what would that show me? Smiles and handshakes? Carefully rehearsed professionalism? Semi-truck roared past, its headlights illuminating the intensity in Reynolds' expression. I didn't become a cop to watch performances, officer. I became one to see truth. Harris found himself standing straighter without realizing it. This wasn't just small talk, it was a mission statement. Reynolds leaned against the hood of Harris's cruiser, the metal creaking under his weight. How many stops have you made this month? 28, sir, Harris answered automatically. And how many of those drivers looked like me? The question landed like a gut punch. Harris opened his mouth, then closed it. The stats flashed in his mind, the black real estate agent he'd stopped last Tuesday, the Latino teen driving his mom's car, the white college kids he'd let off with warnings. ... Reynolds nodded at his hesitation. You're not a bad cop, Harris. But we all have blind spots. He tapped the hood. This car? My nephew's graduation gift? You know what my first thought was when you lit me up? Hope this guy doesn't make me put my hands on the roof. Harris's stomach twisted. He'd never considered how his uniform might look through someone else's eyes. A comfortable silence settled between them until Reynolds pushed off the hood with a grunt. Now, about that speeding ticket... Harris's pen was halfway out of his pocket. Before he froze, the chief's eyes sparkled with mischief. Relax, Reynolds chuckled, holding up his hands. I'm messing with you, he sobered slightly. But here's the lesson: you were ready to write it just because I brought it up. Even after everything we just discussed, Harris flushed. The chief was right. He'd automatically moved to enforce rather than think. Reynolds clapped him on the shoulder. Slow down, officer. Both on the road, he nodded toward Harris's cruiser, and in your assumptions. The weight of his hand lingered. It split second between seeing a driver and deciding their story. That's where real policing happens. As Reynolds walked back to his car, Harris noticed something he'd missed before: faded end racial profiling, bumper sticker peeling at the edges. This wasn't just some administrator's vehicle. It was someone's daily driver, someone who'd been stopped too many times himself. One last thing, Reynolds called through his open window. Monday morning, 7 a.m. sharp. My office. He grinned. Weird. Starting a new training program? Guess who's helping me lead it? The chief's tires crunched gravel as he pulled away, leaving Harris standing in the swirling red and blue lights with two revelations. One, he'd just passed the most important test of his career. Two, his job and his department would never be the same. Asterisk, the body cam footage hit social media at 9:17 a.m. on a Thursday primetime for viral content. Started with a single retweet from @BlueTruth. It's an anonymous police watchdog account with 500,000 followers. Asterisk, asterisk, new police chief gets pulled over by his own officer. Wait for the look on his face. Asterisk, asterisk. Within an hour, the clip had been viewed over 200,000 times. By lunch, major news networks were airing it with bold chirons. Asterisk, asterisk, chief's surprise. Traffic stop test goes viral. Asterisk, 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 cop's reaction to learning driver is his boss stuns internet. Asterisk, asterisk. It was the perfect storm of human drama authority, surprise, and a twist no screenwriter could have imagined. Comment sections became battlegrounds. Asterisk, asterisk, supportive comments. Asterisk, asterisk, this is how you lead. Chief Reynolds, earning respect the right way. At True Blue Leo, asterisk, officer handled this like a pro. That salute at the end. Perfect. Asterisk. At Mr. SCOPWIFE. Asterisk. Asterisk, critical comments. Asterisk, asterisk. Would he have been so professional if the chief was in a hoodie? At Justice Now, another black man pulled over for driving while black. Just admit it. Asterisk, at Wake Up People. Most shared clip? The 7-second loop of Harris's face, morphing from confidence to sheer panic, turned into memes with captions like, asterisk, when you realize your Uber passenger is your boss. Asterisk, asterisk me remembering I left the stove on ... at work. Or I'm the chef asterisk by day. 3. The Pleasantville PD press room was packed. Chief Reynolds stood at the podium, Harris visibly uncomfortable beside him. Let me be clear, Reynolds said, silencing the room. Officer Harris conducted this stop by the book. Speed was verified by radar. The approach was professional. The outcome was fair. He paused. That's all any community should want from their police, a reporter shouted. But statistics show black drivers are treated differently in many jurisdictions, Reynolds finished, which is why I did this. To see if my department was part of the problem, he turned to Harris. This officer proved we can do better, the room erupted. Harris's relieved exhale was audible on the live stream. No one ever confirmed who leaked the footage. But the rumor mill pointed to 1. Officer Jenkins, the tech-savvy dispatcher who'd accidentally live-streamed a cat rescue last year, 2. The chief himself, a calculated move to force transparency, 3. Harris's partner who'd been heard saying, dude, this is going to be legendary. The IT audit was inconclusive. 2 weeks later, every Pleasantville officer found a new mandatory course on their roster. Asterisk, asterisk, unconscious bias. Real stops. Real consequences. Asterisk, asterisk. The syllabus included body cam analysis of the Harris-Reynolds stop roleplay scenarios with civilian actors, a brutal session where officers got pulled over by superiors in plain clothes. Harris, now unofficially dubbed the chief's guinea pig, became a reluctant instructor. The precinct doors hissed shut behind Officer Harris with unusual finality that Monday morning. The usual pre-shift chatter was absent. A strange energy hummed through the bullpen. Every officer seemed to stand just a little straighter, their uniforms just a bit sharper. Harris had barely taken 3 steps when Sergeant Ruiz materialized beside him. Chief wants to see you now. The normally gruff sergeant added under his breath, and for God's sake, don't call him sir again, like you did on the stop. He hates that. The walk to the chief's office felt longer than the entire traffic stop that started it all. Chief Reynolds' office door stood open, revealing a space that defied expectations. No mahogany desk or leather chairs, just a battered conference table stacked with case files and a half-eaten breakfast burrito. The man himself stood at a whiteboard covered in crime stats, marker in hand. Harris. He didn't turn around. No, why are you Zooforce complaints dropped 12% last quarter? Harris froze. This wasn't the script he'd rehearsed. Reynolds spun, tossing the marker. Because we stopped pretending we don't have biases, he gestured to a chair. Sit! You're helping me fix this department? What followed wasn't the reprimand Harris expected, but a brutal, brilliant 3R masterclass in modern policing. 1. Asterisk, asterisk, the mirror test. Asterisk, asterisk, Reynolds made Harris rewatch the body cam footage frame by frame, analyzing every micro-expression too. The hard truth? That hesitation when you saw my skin color? That's the split second where tragedies happen. 3. The solution? A new training protocol, where officers reviewed each other's stops like game tape by month's end. The changes were undeniable. In the locker room, the racist joke that used to get laughs now earned icy stares. Veteran officers started asking rookies, how would the chief handle this? On patrol, Harris caught himself running mental checks. Asterisk, would I stop this car if the driver were white? Asterisk, discretionary stops dropped 18%. But felony arrests rose 7% at City Hall. The mayor demanded other departments adopt the Pleasantville model. Community leaders actually showed up to precinct meetings with coffee, not complaints rain. Sheeted down on Highway 22 when Harris spotted the swerving BMW. The driver, a white college kid reeking of weed, had all the privilege tells, frat shirt, daddy's credit card on the dash, that smirk that said you can't touch me. 6 months. Earlier, Harris might have shrugged it off with a warning. Now, he saw Chief Reynolds' face in his mind. "Step out of the vehicle, sir." The body cam caught it. All the professional tone, the textbook sobriety test, the way Harris called the kid sir, just like Reynolds preferred. When the spoiled brute finally snapped, "Do you know who my father is?" Harris didn't flinch. "Don't care. You're endangering lives." The clip went department-wide by dawn. The anniversary of the stop became an unofficial holiday at Pleasantville PD. Officers competed in Harris checks, spotting their own biases. Fastest civilians brought donuts to the station. First, in 20 years, Chief Reynolds spent the day riding, along letting officers pull him over for one saz for Harris. He stood at a promotion ceremony, shiny lieutenant's bars in his hands. Remembering that rainy highway stop, Chief Reynolds leaned in as he pinned the bars. "Still writing tickets the old way?" Harris smiled. "Not a chance, sir," the chief groaned. "We're working on that sir thing next."